Welcome to episode 4 of GenXAdulting. Today we are going to discuss man versus bear.
Ooh.
Yes. So I recently made a post on TikTok where I asked you if you had to leave Kaya alone, our daughter, in the woods with either a man or a bear, which would you choose?
Mhm.
And what did you choose?
I chose the bear.
You chose the bear. Now,
Yeah.
why did you choose the bear?
I chose the bear because I couldn't know who the man would be in the woods with her.
Mhm.
So I trust her ability to deal with the bear, whether it's to escape and hide or I don't know, whatever, right? Deal with the bear versus dealing with a strange guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I asked you if it was between a bear and a woman, what would you choose?
Woman. Yeah, no doubt.
And why did you choose a woman?
They could work together and figure out the bear.
Okay, so how much did safety come into play in your decision making? The safety for Kaya, or for if it's any woman, but for Kaya, for you personally, your daughter, in your decision making, how much did her safety come into play in your decision making?
Well, probably 100%, but
Okay.
it's also it's an interesting challenge. Um, you don't feel like you have a lot of time to maybe process it in a sense, right? You're looking for an answer.
Hmm.
So it's pretty snap judgment, I guess, an instinctual response.
Right. So, what would make you feel that she is safer with a bear? How is a man a threat to women?
um, Men can be real dickheads,
Hmm.
real assholes, unsafe, um, especially in the dynamics with a woman. And she's an attractive girl. So that I don't know if that changes it a ton, but in my mind, it feels like it could or should. Maybe it might.
It's really interesting because that you say that, because I think all women feel unsafe around men.
Hmm.
And I think attraction is obviously subjective. What's attractive, not that you know, you might find certain women attractive that other men don't, and everyone has their own taste, right?
Hmm.
And then everyone thinks their children are beautiful.
Hmm.
So that goes without saying. So the attractive part, sometimes I wonder, are men attracted to women when they're looking at them as prey? I think they're looking at them differently than you would look at a woman, as far as is she attractive or not. I think the way a man looks at, when a man is looking at a woman as prey, does attraction come into play, or is it more a power struggle at that
Everything
point?
I've say not researched would be the wrong word, but um, it's more of a power play. I think
Hmm.
we're talking about men who prey on women are weak men, right? They're So you're right. The attraction play is not in play as much per se, as much as there may be. When I say her being attractive, I think she's physically attractive, but she's also funny and smart and witty and all of that, right? So I think, um, but she's also pretty strong-minded girl. I think when it comes to guys that prey on women, they're probably looking for um, someone they could exploit, or
Hmm.
um, maybe that they wouldn't think is as strong, or you know, it's a really fucked up thing, quite honestly.
So someone that they can overpower.
Yeah.
So the men who, and when you think of men who prey on women, and it's interesting because I think a significant amount of men would assault a woman if they knew that they would never get caught. And obviously,
That's a
there's,
pretty big statement. You,
I do.
you really think that's true?
I think there's a significant amount of men that would assault a woman and a significant amount of boys that would assault a girl if they thought they could get
And you
away
mean
with it.
sexually assault,
Yes.
not just punch them.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think in general, most assault is sexual from man to woman.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's men who beat their partners, or there was that guy that was going around New York recently punching women randomly. That's not what I'm talking about.
I don't dispute what you're saying, and that's probably why instinctually I'm saying I'd rather have her take her chances with the bear,
Mm-hmm.
because the bear is, obviously physically stronger than any guy.
Mm-hmm.
They're faster than any guy. They can climb a tree. It's hard to escape a bear. If a bear wants to get you, a bear's probably going to do it. But the dynamics of the bear is they're most aggressive when they're protecting their young. So when you ask me this question, my sound is going off.
Yes.
When you ask me this question, that's all part of it, is figuring out what's going on with the bear.
So what's interesting is, just to name a few things a bear would not do. A bear would not hide you in their basement for weeks on end. A bear would not torture you for their own pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
A bear would not rape a woman.
Mm-hmm.
A bear would there's so many things that men do to women, unspeakable things that a bear would never do. So I think with this TikTok phenomenon that's going on, as far as bear versus man, there's a group of men that seem to be butthurt over.
Yeah, the comments. Some of those comments were pretty comical.
So some men, I think, are taking this personally, and I find it interesting because they're viewing it as, and maybe this is how men automatically go to think: who would you who would you beat in a fight, or who could you kill, the bear or the man?
Yeah.
But women aren't thinking like that. Women are assuming, I'm going to die with both of these creatures. They are putting the chance of death at higher, actually, but at least at the same level of being killed by a man as being killed by a bear. But I think they think their chances are better of distracting a bear or getting away from a bear. Whereas with a man, the chances of getting away from a man are going to be much more challenging. And I think that these men are really shocked that women are picking the bear, and they're not understanding that women are terrified of men, and more than anything, probably more than if you made all the men stay home for 48 hours, women could walk around at night alone without worrying about one single thing in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Women could go on a run at 10 p.m. at night anywhere in the world. If you made all the men stay home, women could go anywhere they want in the world alone. And this is not something that men, I think, understand. That every day of our lives, we have to take certain things into consideration that never crosses a man's mind. But if those men stayed home and didn't leave for a certain amount of time, we would be more free and not have that stress. So that's where that's coming from, is that the concern about being hurt by a man is already there. And we're so used to it. And we know the chance, what they can do. So if you put a man in front of us and then put a bear in front of us, we already know what the man's going to do.
The man's a known entity.
Yeah.
The bear is an unknown. You think you could probably deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a shot.
So yeah, the man is a known entity, and we think we have better chances with a bear. But here's another twist. When I first asked you, you actually said a man, obviously. And then you said, because, well, we would know who the man is, right? And I said, no, it would be a random man. And then you said, well, the bear. But what's interesting about you picking a man that we would know is many girls and women are abused, I think, more by men that they know than they don't.
Well, that was a lot of the commentary, right? Around on the TikTok was, it's not the men you don't know. It's the men that you do know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just men across the board, whether you know them or not. I think you and I were talking about it this morning, and I think I counted 7 men I would trust 100%. That's nothing compared to all the men I know. So, and there's none of those other men have done anything, but it's just, you don't know. You just don't know. And the people that you hear about that molest children and that rape girls and rape women, some of it's shocking of who does these things.
Yeah.
So it creates this distrust. And I think on another note, another way of looking at this is when someone's attacked by a bear, and let's say they're killed, that usually makes the news somewhere, even if it's the local news, right? People are just...
Yeah, statistically, bears are not killing people.
Right.
Yeah.
And usually the bear's hunted down and killed.
Yep.
When men assault women, it typically doesn't make the news. I think it's like over 400,000 women are assaulted a year. We're not seeing over 400,000 news segments about women getting assaulted.
Nope.
And those men are not being hunted down and killed. In fact, typically those men are not even getting jail time, or if they do, it's a joke. So I think that goes into this whole conversation of not only do women not trust men, but society doesn't.
It's a man's world.
It's a man's world. Society does not take it seriously.
I've always joked it's good to be a guy.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I love being a woman, and there's so many amazing things about girlhood, and I wouldn't trade. But when it comes to safety, yes, it's good to be a guy. There is no question about it. And typically, guys have each other's backs. But no one's saying to the bear, well, what were you wearing? The bear's friends and colleagues aren't coming forward saying, I don't think the bear could have killed the, he's never talked about wanting to kill before. I've never known him to kill. There's not, what did you do to entice the bear to kill you? So it all goes into play, right? Women have been were you drinking too much before the bear killed you? So it's always...
But who's doing that? Who is asking those questions? Both men and women.
Yes.
Do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Men and women definitely do it.
Yeah, there's a conspiracy from both sides, for both men and women against women.
Yes.
It's not just like this, it's a men against women type of thing. Women are not always their best advocates as a whole, if you will.
Yes, I agree. I think when it comes to something like a victim coming forward about sexual assault, typically it's more men that are questioning her, the victim blaming, than women. But there are definitely women that are out there sniping against these victims as well.
I always go
100%.
back to Hillary Clinton, right? And for me, and it's really just an age thing, when Bill was taking advantage of, or what's the right word, exploiting Monica Lewinsky.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Back in the day, the news was Hillary attacking Monica instead of going after her own husband, who completely exploited an 18 or 19-year-old intern, whatever she was, completely took advantage of her. This bitch is out there going after her as the victim. And I can tell you, for me personally, I think I was, 18, 19, 20 years old. I was like, this woman, powerful woman, is creating fear and doubt, creating an uncertainty.
Right.
And it's like, it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
It gets you thinking, okay, so what, and that's the danger in all of that, right? That piece of shit goes after Monica in defense of her power. Not even her husband, it's her power, right? That sets the tone for a lot of people to doubt the story. It's a fascinating dynamic. I'm not saying she was the first. She was the first for me because of the age and timing of me actually paying attention to the news and seeing what's going on there. But it's a playbook. It's a playbook that happens every day, all day, and it's done by both men and women against the victim, whoever they are.
I agree 100%. I think when it comes to Hillary, I think a lot of Gen Xers can vividly remember what you're talking about. Yeah. And I think for Hillary Clinton, it was self-serving, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And I think in a lot of situations, I mean, you have defense attorneys who are
Mm-hmm.
women,
Mm-hmm.
so they're going to, I don't know how they live with themselves, but they're going to go after uh, the victim who are women. They're going to go after them in that way. Um, but
Well, think about that, right? Think about that, how you live with yourself. You can talk yourself into most things.
yeah,
So even if you are a victim, if you're surrounded by enough fucked up people, you might actually believe that maybe I did drink too much, or maybe my clothing was too provocative,
mhm,
or maybe I shouldn't have done something. But it's not. That's just not the case,
right.
right? I mean,
Well, I think we've come a long way. I mean, I think in general, there's less and less victim blaming, but it's still there. I
yep.
mean, even if you look at headlines about, woman attacked while jogging instead of man attacked woman while she was jogging.
Well.
It's
So remember this. This was what was it in Memphis? I think the lady went out on for a
yes,
jog.
yes, the four
No,
in the
no, this
morning.
is the worst one. The the thing up in Athens, Georgia, I think it was recently, right? The college girl was out running, illegal alien from Venezuela, I think,
Mm-hmm.
kills her.
Mm-hmm.
One of those papers, honestly, I think it was one of the liberal newspapers, maybe New York Times. I think it was some Times writer said, just a reminder that women shouldn't go out running in the morning.
Right.
How fucked up is that?
Right.
That
No.
shit, that drives me crazy.
Yes. No. And again, that is victim blaming.
Yeah,
It is
100%.
100%. Women should be allowed to go on a run. I'm going to be very clear. Women should be allowed to go on a run any hour of the day or night whenever they want.
It's just not reality, though.
I know, but
Yeah.
they should.
Yep.
Women should be able to go out and run, and it doesn't matter what they have on. It does not, none of it matters. They should 100% and have every right to go out and run.
Anybody should. It's not
Oh,
even a man
yes.
versus woman thing. It's a crime thing, but
No, but
I
we're
get the,
talking
yeah, I
about
get
women.
it.
So when this happens to women, where they get attacked at 4 in the morning or at whatever time, 6 in the evening, it has nothing to do with what they were doing. It is 100% on the attacker, the psychopath who raped and murdered these women. That is who it's on. It doesn't, it has nothing to do with the woman. So as far as these headlines, it should always state who the man was who did this crime.
That's just doesn't happen.
I know. And
Yeah.
that's part of the US. So what's the problem? That's part of the problem. That's part of
Well,
society
the
has
bigger
set it up.
problem is these are not punishable crimes. They should be, but they're
Hmm.
not. And if you were to get convicted, my gosh, how long the trial would it be? It's not like it's quick,
Right.
right? So it takes a while. You get plenty of appeals, you get public defenders, whatever. Even
Right.
if you get off on a technicality. But if you actually did get convicted, and I don't know this, or and I'm talking out of my rear on this in some ways, but I don't think the time ever fits the crime in that sense.
I
It's
agree.
what maybe I think it should be I don't think any crimes or any time fits most crimes, I guess.
Well, at least when it comes to sexual assault on women. So I think you go through, and this has been going on for hundreds of years against women. It's really just in the last century that finally women are starting to get some vindication. But it's almost ingrained in us. I mean, Kaya, I've raised her to always be on the lookout and always be prepared since she was little. And
Hmm.
even now, when she's in the parking lot and when she goes here and goes there, she knows she's always on alert, always on alert. So I think when you ask a woman that question, if you were alone in the woods and you came across a man in the woods and you're looking at that man and he's looking at you, and you were in the woods and you came across a bear and he's not even looking at you, or even if he does, who are you going to pick? You're going to pick the bear.
You really think so?
Yes, 100%.
I,
Why? If I came across a man in the woods,
yeah, but
yes.
the bear's going to scare the shit out of you, right? It's going to scare most
I'm
people.
scared of the
Yeah, but
both are
if there's a
scaring.
bear, and you're like, oh my god, there's a bear, and there's a dude over there, you might go. You wouldn't think to go to the and say,
No, no,
hey,
no.
can you
It's
help?
one or the other.
What do you mean?
It's you're
Well, but
picking.
that's what makes it
Who would you rather?
semi-stupid.
No, who would you rather run into in the woods?
Oh, okay.
So I run into a man, and he's looking at me, and
Yeah,
I'm looking at
yeah, I got
him.
it. Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
So would the bear scare the shit out of me? Yes. The point is, they both scare the shit out of me.
yeah.
But which one
No,
am
I
I going to
got you.
have a chance with?
Yeah.
And also, if they're both going to kill me, at least with the bear, he's going to maul me. He's going to bite me. I'm going to bleed to death. It's done. With the man, he's going to torture me. He's going to rape me. He's going to dismember me. You know, who knows what he's going to do to me before he finally kills me. So that is what women are thinking of. That is the mind. And you are getting into the mind of a woman. That's what goes through our minds.
It's terrible.
Is what could these men do? That's what it is.
That's terrible.
So take that into just being out. These girls or women at bars or restaurants and always wondering.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's why you guys have to travel in a squad or in a pack.
Yes.
To your point, you got to look over your shoulder. It's crazy now with these Apple AirTags. People are putting AirTags in cars and bags and whatever and following people home. It's completely crazy.
And you know how easy it is for men to put something in a women's drink? It's so easy. So you're always on guard. You know, you have to watch your purse so they don't drop an AirTag in. You have to watch your drink so they don't drug you. You have to, you know, make sure you can get to your car okay. You have to kind of look as you're walking up to your car.
Be a guy.
As you're walking up to your car, you're looking under your car as you're walking up to make sure no one's under your car. If there's something on your car, you drive home with it on your car because you don't want to touch it. These are just things naturally going through our heads at all times. Don't even get me started on the men that follow women and girls around stores.
I will say this, just to, like, if I'm getting gas at the gas station, I'm looking over my shoulder and stuff.
Yes.
So there is a situational awareness.
Yes.
I'm not as afraid as any woman because I am a guy. I feel like I can at least take care of myself for the first round or two.
Right.
I would advocate women do concealed carry. I really, truly would.
Yes.
I think every woman should carry a gun. Go learn how to shoot, how to handle a gun, and carry a gun in your purse or your belt or whatever. That's crazy, but that is the world we live in, and that's crazy. And men do it too. If you come to South Florida, assume everyone's carrying a gun, and it helps keep the peace, quite frankly.
To some degree.
But it's interesting.
But but for you, when you're at a gas station, you're more focused on crime. You're not focused on that somebody is going to kidnap you or assault you. You're focused on, is somebody going to try to steal your car or steal your money?
No, I'm thinking, but
or
how they
shoot
get
you.
how they get my car or money goes through an assault, whether it's So if I'm standing there, I'm like, I am looking around, making sure that there's no one coming up behind me or approaching.
Yes.
If someone pulls up in a strange vehicle with tinted windows, let's say, and that's reason for or cause or caution. I was going to say pause. That's kind of a moment for you pause and think about it, right? So there's a constant situational awareness. Not even just getting gas. Hell, going to like Home Depot or a retail store at 8:00 at night when it's dark.
Yes.
Right. It's just the world we live in most metropolitan areas.
So I think, yes, for both of us, that we're aware of our surroundings when we're out and about. I think for me as a woman, it's on a totally different level, 100%. So what's interesting is, or what I'd like to ask you is, growing up as a boy and as a man, there's a reason you said the bear. And I would assert that the reason you chose the bear and the reason that other fathers would choose the bear is because men know men. So growing up in the locker room or with your friends or being around guys or being around men, are there outward obvious situations where are there situations where it's obvious how men feel about women when it comes to how they view them as far as
Well, it's
in a derogatory
yeah,
way?
but I think this is where that it gets a little convoluted because as boys and men, you're chasing girls, right? Heterosexually speaking, right? Um, so you're interested in girls for the attraction, eventually, probably starts out with kissing or whatever, right? You're trying to get laid. Let's put it that way. You're trying to
Hmm.
get laid. But this isn't that. What you're describing is more the power play.
Right.
That's not the healthy birds and the bees or the courting of someone you're attracted to and there's a mutual attraction and that kind of thing, right? That's more, say, give and take. That's a relationship. What you're describing is a power play.
Hmm.
And that's not something I think is very pervasive. It's not like you're sitting in the locker room and you're like, oh yeah, so and so likes to rape girls. That's not found to be an acceptable thing, right?
Yeah.
That's a closet thing, and it's honestly, I think that's a secret in many ways, right? If someone's out running around, I don't think men. You can look at somebody and come up with a stereotype on somebody, right? Whatever it
Hmm.
might be. Oh, that
Hmm.
guy's he's a metalhead, he's a deadhead, or whatever
Frat
that
boy.
frat boy, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You can't look at someone like, oh, that guy's a rapist or that guy's an abuser, or it's just not
Okay.
how
So,
it works.
but do you think that, so then what about the date rape culture where let's say on a college situation in fraternities or at college parties or high school parties, would you think that at least more than one boy or man is aware that date rape drugs are being used in those situations? And if so, then there is kind of this silent agreement that, okay, this is what we're doing.
I honestly don't know. I can't relate to that. It's not. No, I don't know.
So you never in all your years through high school, college, as an athlete, everything up until we got married, never ever came across a situation where anyone was talk talking about, or you heard of anyone drugging a girl to rape her, or that someone had raped a girl or taken
No,
advantage of a girl
no,
or
not at all.
assaulted a girl.
Not at all. No, not like an intentional. No, no.
And you never heard of anyone assaulting a girl.
I think I'm aware of questionable things, right? Whether it's at a party and things get out of control or whatever,
So what would
but
that have
not
been?
necessarily been, uh, not like, an intentional thing like, hey, check out these pills I got and this is how you use them, that type of thing. Or let's get somebody cornered and rape them, right? That's not a thing that
Oh,
I'm aware of, right? I'm not saying it's not, but because I think obviously there are things like that, right? Gang of rapes
definitely.
or gang assaults and shit like that. And I would think I don't know, that
But
could be big time college stuff. I
but
don't know.
but to go back to what you said, you heard of certain situations that maybe got out of hand. And what does
I
that
honestly can't think
mean?
of anything specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like I think there's definitely a lot of men like you who never really came across situations like that. Were never obviously a part of it, anything like that. Essentially, were raised to respect women and to not
I don't
force
know if we were,
themselves,
quite
you
frankly.
know?
I don't know if we were or not to necessarily raised to respect women, but where I think, and what I mean by that is, right, Gen Xers. We talked about this, I think, in episode 1 or 2, but the dumpster diving for the Playboys and stuff. We
Mhm.
grew up with it, in that age of 70s, 80s,
Objectifying women.
objectifying women, pornography, you know, the advent of the supermodel,
Mhm.
Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, all the glamour magazines and all that shit, right?
Mhm.
So there was absolutely grew up in the age of objectification of women.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know I don't even know where I was going with this, but
Well, you were talking about
Oh,
being raised to
yeah, so no,
respect
yeah.
women.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. But I don't know if we were necessarily raised to respect women. We were at a family level, right? But
Yes.
at the macro level and a societal and cultural level, women have been getting disrespected forever. It's part of the culture. And
Right.
it's even worse in other countries, right? In the US, it's amazing. This whole bear versus man thing in the US is completely different, I think, than what goes on outside of the US. Like even in Europe, right? Europe is there's some chauvinism that still exists that's part of the fabric of the culture. You go into, say, like the Middle East, and there's an absolute um, lack of respect for women, right? It's such a bad lack of respect for them that they're forced to cover up. So the dynamics on this are actually very interesting. But I think where you learn to respect women is at a very micro level, the family level. So I grew up with I had 6 aunts. I have I have a sister, I have female cousins, I have other female relatives, right? So that's where you learn to respect women or just people in general, if that makes sense.
Yes, but I'm wondering where the line gets crossed because women have been objectified for years and years and years, and women have been assaulted for years and years and years. So,
Men are
what
physically stronger.
men are physically stronger. So, I'm curious what makes a man cross the line from just objectifying a woman to thinking he can assault a woman. It's a line that gets
Well, it's
crossed.
really, really fascinating stuff, and I hadn't thought of it in this way. But if you look into like Carl Jung, um, even Freud, but Freud's a little bit, abstract. But Carl Jung talks a lot about just how it's as individuals, we're slowly becoming less and less individuated, and we're losing our individual identity, and it's becoming more of this collective identity. And when you get into that collective identity, you have less and less concept of yourself. And now you're really prone to those external factors around you. And once that starts to happen, now you feel less and less powerful. So as the this it's a societal thing. It's a and it's happening, right? The governments are kind of doing this in some ways, in that manipulation of, we want individuals to feel less in control, and we want to pull it more into the community. So, but as you do that, as you pull away someone's sense of self control and self determination, people react very differently to that. And so you might have someone who is, you think about the psychology of the man who's doing this kind of stuff. It's a power play.
Mhm.
It's truly a power play. It's not a it's a power play. They're out to prove something, and it's because they're losers, and they're losing on whatever fronts that are around them, whether it's financial, or they don't feel they look good enough, or whatever, right? They just lack the power in their own lives that they have to take it out on someone. And the easiest thing to do is to take control and overpower a woman,
And it
physically speaking.
and that all makes sense. And you can't even say that it's a thing based on, poor versus rich or
No,
black versus white, because there's many, many white rich males who have raped
it's not a
girls,
sexual thing either.
and it's not sexual. So for all of these men, somewhere in their lives, they don't feel that they have control, or maybe an identity that is authentic in some way. And I think there's a lot of hate though towards women from these men. I don't think these men like women at all.
I don't know. I mean, it's a fascinating thing because what I just described is an outlet.
Mm,
As fucked up as that is, it's an outlet. So, another outlet is to do drugs or drink or exercise or whatever. Go become work harder, or whatever, right? But it's as an outlet, that's a fucked up concept, but um I think that's part of it.
That's really interesting. So they have whatever going on inside of them, this anger, this dissatisfaction with the world, with life, with themselves, with their situation. They
Hmm.
feel powerless. They feel like losers,
Yeah.
essentially, low self esteem, all of that crap. And instead of going and shooting up or drinking a bunch of alcohol or, dealing with it in other ways like that,
Yep.
they use women because they can overpower women. It's
Yeah.
something that they can take control of, get some sort of satisfaction and a self-esteem hit because they were able to overpower this woman and rape her
Yeah. Or abuse her.
or abuse her.
So I mean, you know this, but when I was in college, I volunteered at a shelter for battered and abused women and their kids.
Hmm.
And talk about a mind fuck, right? Because, I was there as to basically play with and as a counselor in a sense for the children, the kids, playing basketball, kickball, wiffle ball, whatever, just talking, um, being a positive male role figure in their lives. Um, and it was cool, but it was cool in that sense to connect. I still remember some of the kids and how much they enjoyed me coming around. Um, but what got me out of it is it's crazy. It's a cycle. And um, the women that were there, they'd come, they'd get away. The guy they'd somehow reconcile. The man would apologize. And then what's most fucked up is, say the first time it's a slap and you leave. That's not the case. But the next time it's a punch and then you leave. And you go back, it's probably a concussion or a broken arm. And you leave, you come back. It just escalates.
Yeah.
It escalates more and more because as they leave, it's that thing. It's like, why do you keep going back? And it's, I think for them, it's almost like it's almost easier for me to stay because then it stays kind of minor. Because it's that control, right? It's the control of if you're here and I've got control of you. I'm a loser in all aspects of my life. I financially, I'm just a piece of shit, or professionally, I'm a piece of shit. But I can flex on this one person, and have some sense of control when everything else is out of control.
Hmm.
It's really fucked up. I mean, I don't know how far away from the bear versus man story we are, but as you dig into it,
I think
it's crazy.
I think all of it is why we choose the bear. And it isn't even that these men are losers financially or professionally. That's just two things because there's many very successful men
Yeah.
that are abusive.
I say that for lack of example.
Right. There's like so many different things.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think a lot of women don't leave because they're afraid that they're going to get killed. I do think a lot of women fear for their lives that if I leave him, he will kill me or he will take my children from me. A lot of men use the children.
Well, the safe house that I volunteered at was in the middle of a neighborhood and you would never know. It just looked like a house.
Yeah.
And it was that way so that it was completely concealed, just fit in.
Yeah.
You'd never know.
I wonder how much of it too is how these boys are raised. How much, so if their fathers are abusive, obviously they are going to mimic it. But where did it come from? So is it just passed down from generation to generation to generation until it's finally broken? It could go back hundreds of years. If you have the same, if the fathers are always doing it and it's just continuing being passed down, when is the cycle broken?
I don't know if it even rolls like that. I don't think it does. I don't think that's suggesting there's some genetic or hereditary component here. And I don't think that's in play per se. It's, I've thought about this since this whole thing, we did this yesterday. I'm blown away by the amount of action and some of the visceral responses from the women out there who hate men, to the guys who defend the man versus the bear. And then the other folks who probably are like me, the men who are like, oh, I'd pick the bear every day. What I think is interesting is you probably don't, it's just exposure and it's experience. And what I mean by that, that's how most things are solved, right? If you're racist, the best way to cure your racism is to go spend some time with people of another race. You'll realize you got a lot in common, right? It's the racism is just ignorance. When it comes to, say, women being afraid of men, have a daughter. You know, think about the safety of your daughter. Think about the safety of your wife. And so it's really exposure. I
But
don't think that solves everything, but until you have a daughter or you're married and you're living in an area where there's, you know, any city in the world, the US, there's exposure to bad things happening.
right.
If you are not married or have a daughter, you may not think about this stuff. May
But
not hit your psyche.
and I hear what you're saying, but there's many men who are married and beat their wives, and there's many men who have daughters and
Yeah. No,
molest them.
yeah.
You
I'm not an
know?
expert on this.
No, it's just very interesting. I think it's a culmination of many things. I think you really nailed a lot with the outlet concept, that taking advantage of these women, overpowering them is a way for them to feel better about themselves as much as doing drugs or
Mhm.
drinking. It's the same. I never thought about it as an outlet before, using human beings
It's
as an
fucked
outlet.
up.
Of course, it's
Yeah,
all
it's
messed
fucked
up.
up.
I mean, molesting young children, that's a whole different thing. But I do think there's also some nature versus nurture going on there. I'm not saying it's genetic, but I think mimicking what you see growing up definitely has a play in there. You know, if you see your dad hitting your mom, and you think part of you either is going
Could
to
be.
completely
Never saw it, so
right,
I don't know.
but
Yeah,
if a boy
modeling. It's
does
called you're modeling. Yeah,
modeling
100. Yeah,
exactly, and then I think then there's just I think it's both. I think you grow up watching it, or you have your own issues and you're using women as an outlet. And then of course there's just psychopaths,
yeah.
which, you know, I think to some level any man that can assault a woman has sociopathic tendencies. There's no question about it, in my opinion.
It depends on what you mean. If it's unprovoked, then sure. But I mean, if a guy gets attacked by a woman, you know that.
No, I mean
Yeah.
sexually assault,
Oh yeah.
rape.
I got you.
So, and the bear versus man thing isn't just about rape. It's about torture. It's about all the things we know men have done to women. You know, women watch and listen to true crime for many reasons. One of them is to be prepared in case something ever happens to them. So it's research for us. A lot of it's entertainment and a lot of it's research and to be prepared. But through listening to true crime, we learn what men really can do in the worst case scenarios. I mean, there was a girl just last week went on a first date and he dismembered her and threw away parts of her body. I think this happened in, oh gosh, I don't want to say the wrong town,
Yeah.
Atlanta or Nashville. I don't know. I could be
I
saying the
don't
wrong
know.
town. I don't want to say the
Yeah.
wrong town. And they have him on camera throwing away different body parts throughout the city. That was her first date. She met him on Hinge,
Yeah.
which is a normal dating site. It's not the one where people just go on like Tinder. Tinder's to like hook up.
Mm-hmm.
This was just to actually meet someone. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
It's crazy. So I think that's what goes into this.
Well, what's
You know.
crazier is depending on what state this actually happened in. Curious to see what happens.
Yeah,
Should be shot. Honestly,
I agree.
hang the fucker. Just shoot him and stop the nonsense.
Yeah.
Don't even entertain due process and all that, right? But
I agree.
he's about to go on probably a 20, 30-year process of appeals and whatever, and just drain the system.
Mm-hmm.
But piece of shit should just be shot.
I always will feel that way, and nothing can ever change my mind on that. But so I think this has been very interesting, and I think it's been very eye-opening to a lot of men. A lot of men are very perplexed by this.
The Bearverse.
Yes, they don't get it.
It's a no-brainer.
But the men who don't get it might be the problem. They're part of the problem. Because
Here, I have a question for you though.
Yeah.
Because I know us talking about it and me representing a viewpoint that's not, say, all pro male, right? I
Mm-hmm.
get it. I understand. I think men, I was thinking about it. Not all men are assholes,
Mm-hmm.
but all men have potential to be and the ability to be. Any man can be an asshole, right? Not everybody is all the time, but we all can be an asshole by the minute, right? It can vary.
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, what do you, I'm in the camp of choosing the bear because I know men and I know the evil that men can inflict upon anything, really. The earth, women, nature, whatever, right? Um,
Animals.
yeah, that was nature,
Yeah.
um, but me taking this position,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think the response would be to me taking that type of position? In that, right? It's you think I'll get the men who think I'm a whatever,
I think
you know what I mean? It's
I think that there's men like you who agree with you 100% and get it. And I think that there's men who think you're stupid, that are going to think you're stupid, and that I don't know if they'll think you're anti-man or
I'm so pro man.
you are.
I'm 100% pro
Yeah.
man. I'm a guy's guy.
Yeah.
But I'm pro people. I'm pro
Yeah.
human, right? I think
Right.
everybody individually do your thing.
Right. No,
Um,
I think
I'm curious what.
I think that there's men who will think that, you're a pussy,
Yeah, probably.
and that you're weak
Yeah,
and that you're controlled by your woman. Like
yeah,
I think
probably
the
that I'm
things that
whipped. Maybe is the right
yes,
word I was trying to
yes.
find.
But I think the men who think that way are part of the problem. By them getting on social media and complaining about this, all they are doing is exposing themselves as part of the problem.
Yeah,
And they're too stupid to realize that.
I think it's hilarious. The whole concept. I
Yeah.
was like, what? What do you
Yeah.
mean a bear versus?
Yeah. So you have two sons.
Mm-hmm.
They have been raised. Well, we're raising the youngest still, but our oldest one, I would say, is a solid man in his 20s.
Mm-hmm.
He has high respect for women.
Mm-hmm.
I think we both, through the years, would talk once he was old enough, talk to him about no means no.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, especially with our youngest, because the world has changed even since our oldest was going through school, but you don't touch a girl at all, even her hand, even her arm. Like, you don't put your hands on a girl without her consent
Mm-hmm.
to anything. Like, that's even gotten more extreme with our youngest versus our oldest. So the whole respect, don't touch, all that. And then even when you're at a party and if you see a girl passed out and her friends, you can't find them, you do not leave her alone. I remember our oldest, Nathan, was at a party and called me and said, I'm going to be late for curfew. This was a high school party. I'm going to be late for curfew because there's this girl, she's passed out and I need to find her friends. And I said, that's completely fine. When, you find her friends and then come home.
Mm-hmm.
So in addition to those things, I think it's imperative that parents who have sons have these conversations. You have to. I had this conversation about not touching a girl at all with Dylan when he was in first grade, I think. I said, you don't touch her anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about having to have that conversation with Nathan because things weren't quite the same as they are in society now.
Mm-hmm.
But even with Nathan, I think I had the no means no conversation in middle school when he started, making out with girls and explaining that to him. So I think every parent with their boys needs to have these conversations, needs to make it clear and revisit this conversation in high school and explain, just go over it, make it a very normal thing to talk about. But in addition to that, can you think of other things we did or you as a father, you did to instill respect for women in our sons?
Nothing necessarily comes to mind. I can honestly admit I wouldn't have had those conversations. It that if I was a single dad, maybe I might have, I don't know, gone to a class, watched a YouTube video or something. How do I do this? How do I bring a mom influence in a single dad situation? So maybe people should do that. I think, Am I the perfect role model? No, no. Am I a decent one? Probably. Um, Not the worst, I guess, right? On the scale of good to bad or whatever, we're somewhere not too far on the horrendous side.
You're pretty good.
Um, never have I hit you, you know.
No,
So,
no,
you know, it's
no.
it's that kind of stuff. It's the listen to your mom, right? I had to have a conversation with Dylan the other day.
Yep, our youngest.
And we got him in the car, had him trapped, going to a game, and we talked about things like that.
Yeah.
So, and just reinforcing the respect and, you know, acknowledgement of, you know, just really, really the respect level.
Yeah. Well,
So,
how about the fact that you raised the boys? Well, this would really apply to Nathan and Kaya because they were closer in age, but Dylan too, that they were never allowed to hit Kaya, put their hands on Kaya. There was a
you know,
no tolerance.
you know, it's funny actually.
No
now
tolerance.
now that I think about it, so the absolute fastest I ever saw my dad move is when, I don't know how old I was, but my sister and I got into an argument, and I think we squared up, and she popped me in the lip, and I was ready. I don't know what I was going to do. I was so surprised. This wasn't common, and it's not tarnishing, right? It's not a big deal. It's
Right.
actually funny.
Right.
And he was sitting on the couch, and I think I was ready to go back, and he was between us within a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
I wonder if she even remembers this.
Yeah.
And I got the full dissertation of never touching your sister, your mom. I don't know what all was said, right? But it's left an impression.
A woman.
That had to have been, I don't know, 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's part of my DNA. It's probably part of theirs.
Well,
I'm
I
still
remember
from the generation of hold the door for women. You know, I still do that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's a Gen X thing, but we all grew up hold the door for a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And women's liberation, and you guys are shooting yourselves in the foot on that one. But I've always told them, hold the door for your mom, hold the door for your grandmother, hold the door for that lady, hold the door for that elderly person,
give up their seat,
give up your seat, whatever it is, right?
I was just in the hairdressers
just be a decent person.
Well, but I mean, you're saying that, but these are things that need to be taught. And I would say with the new generations, I don't know how much of it is being taught. I don't know. I'm being honest. I don't know. I do know I was in the hairdresser with Dylan a couple weeks ago, and him and I both had seats, and an older woman walked in, and he got up and gave her his seat.
Did you have to tell her?
I just looked at him, and then he didn't know she was there.
Yeah.
And then he saw her and got up.
Yeah.
But, you know, but it's, again, we've told them these things, but I specifically remember you telling Nathan, you never touch your sister.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
So that story I relayed to both of them.
Yes.
Over time. I know I've told Nathan that.
Yeah.
And, you know, he asked questions, and
Dylan too.
Yeah.
Because once Dylan got old enough, you were like, you cannot touch your sister.
Yeah. I won't say our kids are perfect, not by any means.
No.
but they're pretty good. But it is kind of fun now to see that. I don't know if I've had any of those moments yet with Dylan. I know he's held the door for people, whether I don't know what, maybe at a hotel or wherever, at restaurants. But I've seen Nathan do it, and I've seen Nathan actively engage in a conversation with someone and make it okay that I'm holding the door, or I'm going to do something that's respectful for you, which is cool.
Yeah.
Right? As he's now, is he considered a man yet, or is he still a young man?
No,
I'd
say he's now a man.
He's probably a man.
Yes.
Doing those kind of things. So it's cool.
I observed Dylan doing that. We were at the library, and one of my girlfriends was coming out with her daughter. He was going in, and I was dropping him off. And she said hi to him, and then he stopped and exchanged some pleasantries with her. Instead of just saying hi and then keeping walking, he stopped and awkwardly did the polite thing. He knew it's ingrained in them that they know they need to do that. And I think there's a lot of kids and a lot of young adults that do that. But
there are.
There are. But I don't know how common it is. I think it might be less common than it was back in the day for us. I could be wrong, But I mean, I can speak down in South Florida. It's not as common for people to hold the door as they're walking into a place. I can't tell you how many people just let the door close behind them when I'm coming up onto the door. Like if you're going into a Nordstrom's or a Macy's, someone's going in the door. I always look behind me and hold to see if anyone's
Mm-hmm.
behind me to hold the door. More often than not, people down here in South Florida are not doing that. So, and when you do it, people are so grateful
Yeah.
because it's not common. That's a common courtesy thing. But is that a
I
cultural
can't
thing?
not.
Of course.
Yeah, I can't not.
Is that a cultural thing or is that just dying out? Common courtesy? And
I feel like I was at the
you know,
like Macy's or something at the mall over the Christmas. I got stuck. Like 5 or 6 people. You know, I held the door for
Yeah.
one person's like,
yes.
all right.
Everyone's so excited.
Yeah, it's like
Someone's
I'm the
holding the
doorman
door.
now.
Yeah.
It's too much.
I mean, we're off topic, but I think that it's incredibly important. Not that this will stop someone from assaulting a woman, but ingraining that respect towards women has got to start at home. It must. It's imperative. It has to.
I think, you know, this will really fire some people up, but I do think women need to work a little bit more closely together too. You guys really, you need to support each other better. It's, you know, I'm not saying you guys are your own worst enemy, but it'd be nice if women stuck together a little bit tighter than sniping on one another as easily as they do.
It's really interesting because I think that the Gen Z women their girlhood is strong. And I think there's so much more support for each other than I would say the Gen X women growing up because society pitted us against each other, that we should be in competition with each other for a man. So if a woman is prettier than you automatically should hate her, or be jealous of her, instead of being like, oh, she's beautiful.
Do you think that's being taught by other Gen Xers having kids?
I think when we were growing up as a girl, that's how it was. You were in competition.
Mm-hmm.
You had your friends and you loved them, but other women were competition.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now I feel with the new generation, in general, I'm saying in general, they celebrate each other. Now, I'm not saying there isn't jealousy. I've witnessed horrendous jealousy towards my own daughter as she was growing up. But I think that in general, there is a lot more support for each other. There's a lot more celebration of each other's successes. Of course, I still think there is pettiness and jealousy and scheming and all that crap that always goes on. But I see more with this younger generation, a unification and support. And I don't know about the millennials with the women, that group. I really don't know, how they are as far as supporting each other and stuff. And I feel like Gen X women, as we've gotten older, have woken up more to, hey, we're not each other's enemies, that we were kind of set up that way, but we really aren't. And so I think we have woken up. I feel personally, I'm going to speak for myself. I have learned so much from the Gen Z women I've met. I admire them so much. And I've learned a lot about.
What's Gen Z? Kaya?
Okay. Well, no, it's all 3 of our kids.
Okay.
But I'm talking about Kaya's age, which is early 20s.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about, I've reflected a lot about how I grew up and how it was with the different women I grew up around, the girls I grew up around. So I think that they definitely are a force to be reckoned with. And I hope they continue to unite and support each other. But you're right. There is always going to be a group of women that are going to put down other women.
And that could just be the way it is. I think about Caitlin Clark, right? Basketball player.
Yeah.
And I can't remember her name. The girl from LSU. Is it maybe Gabrielle Reese? That's I don't think that's her name. But so Caitlin Clark, there's people that are hating on her.
Yes.
But there is another group that's come to her defense.
Yes.
And the girl at LSU, I can't remember. I wish I knew her name. She's a good basketball player. And Caitlin's a white girl, and the girl from LSU is a black girl. And they're both very good. And the girl from LSU, they won the championship last year. And, you know, they were trying to repeat this year, and she talked about how this is the hardest year of her life because so many people were hating on her.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people coming to her defense and stuff, but it's just crazy that the amount of just hate and sniping that was happening for both of them.
For both of them.
It's crazy.
And
it's irrelevant. They're both good basketball
yes.
players.
Yes.
I think they're both decent people.
Yes.
They look different. They maybe listen to different music, maybe wear different clothes, whatever. But I think they're both decent people, and they're both trying to do something.
Right.
But the amount of people shitting on them is remarkable.
Yeah.
But they have had people come to their defense as well. So maybe you're right. There's an evolutionary thing there.
It blows my mind, the women that would snipe on these young women. I don't understand it at all, especially because these women bring attention to women's basketball. So to see other women go at them, especially Caitlin Clark.
Even outside of that, it's just that they're successful.
Yes.
And they're successful people. There's no reason to try to take them down. You do not gain anything by shitting on them.
No,
it's weird.
That's a whole nother thing to talk about is women uplifting women. But I think, again, this whole bear versus man topic, women have come together. That's an area we've come together. I don't know any women who've chosen the man from what I've seen. They might be out there. And I haven't seen any fathers choose the man.
You asked me, as you know, woman to man, did the same question get asked of women?
That's how it started.
It is. What do you mean?
Man was on, it was an interview. It was a guy on the street, I think. I could be wrong. This was the original, but I think this is the original. And he asked a girl, if you were alone in the woods, who would you rather be with, a bear or a man? And she chose the bear. And I think he was surprised.
Did she hesitate? Do you know?
No.
That's funny.
No, she did not choose the bear. She did not hesitate. I'm sorry. She chose the bear right away.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't, like I said, I think this is an area most women can relate to. And I think the men who are having a temper tantrum about this are exposing themselves as part of the problem. But I think they're too stupid to realize that. And I say that in all confidence as a strong woman.
I think men need to do better.
Yeah.
Obviously, right? That's not a good commentary on us. Definitely need to probably pick it up there a little bit.
Absolutely. I think being held accountable, to your point, as far as punishable offenses, if they could get in more trouble for what they're doing, if the sentences were stronger and longer, then I think they wouldn't take these chances of doing this. I feel like there's just kind of this subtle vibe of they might get away with it. So, like, I don't think they're in fear is not stopping them from doing it. Especially when there's gang rapes and it's being filmed. Like, you know, I mean, the audacity.
It's heinous shit.
It's horrible. It's horrible. So the bear is what will always get chosen. I can't think of any reason a man would ever be chosen. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So that's our man versus bear.
What a topic. Jeez.
Commentary for today. That's our opinions on that subject. And
I think I will get lit up personally.
You probably will.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Oh, you know. But yeah, we welcome.
I'll fight the good fight.
We welcome all comments, questions, anything you guys want to say. We welcome it. So
all right, we're out.
Until next time.
All right. See you, everybody.
All right. Bye.